Hi and welcome to this LinkedIn Live. I'm Joshua Friedman, news editor at Rappaport. First, I'd like to apologize for the delay, but I'm pleased that we're now able to begin. This live broadcast is brought to you by De Beers Group Ignite, leaders in science, technology, and innovation throughout the diamond value chain. Inspired by the world's unrelenting change, we are driven to develop creative solutions for the diamond industry, not only for existing challenges, but also for those we may never have faced before, helping you to achieve growth with advanced technology and innovation. Today, we will be talking about diamond screening, the technology for detecting synthetic diamonds, how the world of diamond screening has changed, and the needs of the trade members who use this type of equipment. We are joined by two guests from De Beers Group Ignite. Dani Kruger is De Beers Group Ignite's commercial products and services lead. He has 20 years of experience in digital strategy and business transformation. Dani is responsible for bringing advanced diamond screening and verification products and services to customers in the diamond industry. Welcome, Dani.
Thanks, Josh.
Great to have you here. Samantha Sibley is the technical educator for De Beers Group Ignite and has been with the De Beers Group since 1992. She holds a diamond diploma from GEMA, the Gemological Association of Great Britain, and has more than 30 years experience in De Beers Group's research and development teams. Welcome, Sam.
Thanks very much. Makes me sound really old.
Well, great to have you both here.
Thank you very much.
So before we start, I want to encourage you, the audience, to post questions to our guests in the comments as you listen, and I will pose selected questions to Dani and Sam during the course of our discussion. So I have a question of my own to begin with, and this is for Dani and Sam, whoever wishes to answer. We've seen a lot of developments in lab-grown detection in recent years. How has the sector changed?
So I can jump on to start with, yeah. So I
Sure.
think what we found really is that in terms of lab-based detection, things haven't, in terms of the characteristics of the laboratory-grown material, things haven't changed considerably. We've definitely seen that sizes have improved, and there's more of the lab-grown material that's available. But in terms of characteristics, fluorescence characteristics, and the things that we use in our screening capabilities, there's not been too much change there. Although what we can do is with our forward-looking research, within the De Beers Group, within the Ignite function, we are constantly trying to challenge our instruments, look at new material, and look at different characteristics that we might see in that material and make sure that the instruments can always detect that. So, for example, one of the things that we noticed in the market a few years ago there was more blue fluorescing CVD synthetic material on the market. So maybe a chance that could be confused with blue fluorescing natural diamonds. So, for example, with our Diamond View instrument, where we're looking at surface fluorescence and we're looking at growth information of that material, we then introduced slight differences to that technique by introducing filters where it can improve the image and then make the detection a lot more easy. Right. So important to do that hand in hand, the development and the research.
Right. So can you give me an outline on what Ignite is working on at the moment in terms of technology and instruments? This is again for either of you.
Yes, certainly. I'm happy to take that one. So at the moment, as you will know, we are we just about to launch AMS Micro, which we can talk to a bit more. And then we also have quite a few exciting product updates, as well as new releases planned for 2024 and 2025, particularly targeted at the retail market as well, because we've just seen a growing need there amongst our customers. So very excited to share more in due time, as well as also we've been quite busy about exploring different ways to take products to market. So what we call business model innovation. And again, we're exploring how to take each of our offerings in a different solution package to each of the customers, depending on the size of the customer, where they are positioned, and the channel that we want to use.
Right. I'd like to ask about the new AMS. I know it's probably more than a year since that was originally kind of touted. It's but it's something that you've been working on for quite a while. Danny, are you able to?
Yes, absolutely. It's something we're very excited about. So, as you've mentioned, we've been actively working on this, I think, for over the close to 5 years, from research and then into product development. And last year, end of last year, actually, we did communicate to the market that we are close to launching. And then what the product team will call your typical learn and development cycle. So we ended up going into a few more learning and development cycles as we've learned that there were quite a few differences that we needed to account for just through product development, which is why there was a slight delay on where we actually wanted to launch it last year. But again, we are very confident in the position where we are now, and we've kept all of the customers extremely close to the entire development cycle, throughout the year, just to communicate to them where we are from a testing data point of view. And over the last few months, we've seen significant improvement in all of our performance data to a point where it's now consistent, it's reliable, and we are speaking now to customers around taking orders. So, we are very confident that we're going to be launching our first machine end of this year, and then hoping to or planning to send out the first instrument within the next couple of months, and then we're going to ramp up quite drastically over 2024, just because of the demand that we've seen from these customers. So currently that's where we are, and if anyone is interested, more than happy to take calls afterwards and set up further conversations around that particular launching date.
And for some context, this latest AMS is for detecting the smaller melee, right? Which is a harder task than some of the larger stones.
I think I can jump in on that. So
yes, it's go ahead, Sam, please.
Just on that, it's handling the smaller sizes. So that's the main area of expertise that we're focusing now on is the automation and the using of robotics to handle the stones, because they are so small. And you can imagine it's the measurement technique, we're completely confident with that, and that's the technique that we use within the SynthDetect and the AMS2 instrumentation as well. So it's really sort of drilling down on that stone handling. And I think what's important from a De Beers point of view, and with any of our instruments, that we are 100% happy with the handling, the measurement before it's launched, and all of the instruments we do submit for Assure testing through the Assure program, so that it's not just us saying what the results are and the speed of the instruments. It's all done and verified by a third party. So we want to make sure that the instruments are robust, not just now, but into the future as well. So we'd rather get it right.
Right. And what has changed in terms of technology that has enabled you to detect, or at least to attempt to detect the smaller melee?
It's the automation, it's the robotics, really. I think that's an area where we've ventured further into, and not just for AMS Micro, in other areas as well of our research. So there's other projects where we're looking at using robotics for even looking at processes rather than just instrumentation. So, for example, when we have goods coming through our De Beers laboratories to verify if they're natural, we are not only just checking through one instrument, it's through a process of instruments. And then how can we, rather than that being more of a manual process, how can we automate that and speed up that process and make that more robust?
Right. And how much demand would you say there is for detection of these tiny stones compared with the bigger ones?
Yeah. I think for us at the moment, we've had a overwhelming demand over the last 3 months, which is quite interesting, if you consider the current climate that we are in as well. So, being completely transparent, we've got close to 20 customers at the moment that has asked us for meetings in the next couple of months, where it's about talking to them about their demand, when can they expect production, and then also putting in an order. So it's been really overwhelming, which has been really great, so I think the demand, and it seems like the demand is continuously growing, where we even have customers asking us, could we think of different ways to also reach them other than just pure product sales as well. So you can see there's a definite demand in melee screening. So it's been very promising at the moment.
Right. So this would be things like offering services.
Various business model innovations as well that we are looking at the moment. So over the next couple of years, we are exploring different business model avenues, just to again make sure that we reach the market that's really, that's asking for this particular innovation. So yes.
Great. I just want to remind everyone in the audience that they're welcome to send and encouraged to send any questions they have for Dani or Sam. Post them in the comments. Just moving on to the needs of the customer. I know a lot has changed in the past few years, with more digitization, more interest in lab-grown diamonds from consumers. What changes have you seen? And we've touched on some of this already, but what changes have you seen in terms of what your customers want and need? Maybe this is for Dani.
We've definitely seen a increase from our retail customers. So just being at the last 2 big shows, JCK and Hong Kong as well, we've seen an increase of retail customers coming to us asking for detection verification instruments, and we're actually in the process currently to work with quite a few US retailers, different sizes of the retailer, just to understand the current need from a verification instrument, so meaning how much front of store versus back of store, and what do they want to use it for. So it's something that we've seen quite a lot over the last year, and as I'm talking, we're actually busy with a research project to determine then how would we think about our next product updates, and also how we want to service the particular market. But I definitely see that as a bit of a pivot from what we've believed 4 or 5 years ago, from a retail point of view versus where retailers are at the moment.
Right. Well, thank you for that, Dani. So how...
Josh, are you still there?
I'm there. Can you hear me okay?
I can. Apologies. I think there was a bit of a network break.
Good. I think we're good now. So looking at some of your instruments deal with finished jewelry. How has demand for scanning of finished jewelry changed, and how is it technically different in terms of its difficulty or other things from scanning loose stones?
So we've definitely seen a move towards looking at finished pieces. If we think of 10 years ago, a lot of the instrumentation was lab-based or very large wholesalers. So definitely more demand in that retail environment. And then, of course, it's all dependent on the finished piece. So measuring a single solitaire ring is a lot easier than a very intricate design with diamonds all around and underneath. So we've certainly looked at for some of our existing instruments, looked at new accessories. And I think that's where working with this customer is really important, and getting feedback on that area. When we think of something like the synth detect instrument, where it was looking at very simple set jewelry to start with, we then introduced a larger base for looking at multiple rings and larger, flatter pieces of jewelry, and obviously trying to expand on that as well. So really important to listen to what the trade is saying, what the customer's saying, and going back to what Dani was saying on the retail side of things, where it's definitely more looking at those finished pieces. And what's also important is we've got customers who are looking at the loose before jewelry manufacture and then looking at the finished pieces subsequent to that. So something like the AMS, the AMS2, the existing AMS2 and the synth detector, using that same measurement technique is more likely that you're going to get consistent results through that screening process as well. So very important there.
Right. I'd like to ask a little bit about how De Beers Group Ignite works and where does your R&D take place? Where does your R&D for this technology happen?
So the majority takes place here in Maidenhead. Sorry, there's a bit of a delay with you, Dani. So the majority is here in Maidenhead in the UK, but we work very closely with other groups as well. So we've got a strong research team here based in the UK looking at characteristics of natural diamonds and laboratory grown material, and then also treated diamonds as well. So important to know that not only if we're doing full screening, not only if a diamond is natural, but that it hasn't been subsequently treated as well. So a lot of research in that area. We work very closely with Element 6, so the industrial division of De Beers, but not only looking at the material that Element 6 produces, but also commercially available material as well. So really important to know what other people are growing and make sure that we can fully detect that material as well. So that's the sort of research side of that, and then that feeds in very nicely to the development of the instruments. So working with the design engineers, the production teams here, and then designing and developing instruments, and they're all built within the UK as well.
Okay, great. So thanks for that, Sam. We've got a question in from one of the viewers. Someone's asking the extent to which you use robotics. I think they're asking, well, they're used for grading and faceting, which I think maybe is a little bit outside our remit here. Are you able to go a bit deeper into how robotics is used for your for Ignite's products?
At the moment, we're just looking at for stone handling, really in that area. So eliminating, so it's more sort of pick and place and how that can speed up sort of processes. So moving stones from one process to another. That's the sort of area that we're looking at the moment, and it's robotics that's within the AMS microsystem. So the stone handling there. So it's obviously really important that we look at not just the technology there, but looking at the characteristics of the diamond as well, because we know that diamond has this affinity to grease. So really important to understand, what's happening there, make sure your diamonds are very clean. So it's not only the measurement technique or the stone handling, it's all almost like the housekeeping around screening as well, especially on those smaller sizes.
Right, great. And another question, someone wanted to know some of the details about the smaller sizes that can be measured. I presume this is referring to the new AMS. What's the smaller sizes that can be measured? Or that can be put through, I think it means.
So we're going down to a tenth of a point is the smallest. Right. So AMS2, the existing AMS2 was a third of a point. Now we're going down to a tenth of a point. So
right. And the question here, I'm not sure I completely understand it myself. Are there any new products for independent appraisers?
I'm guessing that means easy to use, portable, cheap.
Possibly.
So it's an area that we're looking into, and Dani's touched on it on almost on the retail side of things as well. So I think the situation's moved on from years ago where you could just take a thermal pen test and just check whether it was a diamond versus a simulant. Right. A little bit more sort of like complicated now, but one of our instruments, Diamond Sure, is still portable. So able to carry around and measure stones that way. But yeah, we understand the limitations of some testing and the difficulties that independent appraisers have when you're mobile, when you're looking at estate pieces of jewelry, that type of thing. It's not always in a nice clean environment in a lab and it's easy to screen everything. So we are conscious of that sort of side of things.
Right. So I've got a question of myself, a question of my own. Where do you see diamond detection and diamond screening going next? Where would you see things? what would you think will be the challenges and the issues in say 5 years' time? This can be for Sam or Dani.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think in terms of the characteristics of the material, I can't see that that's going to change massively. What is going to be interesting, I think, is not really on the detection side of things, but it's really what's going to happen with the whole lab grown market. So as the cost of lab grown is decreasing, are people going to submit stones for lab grown reports? How is that going to basically compete with, for example, the simulant market for the CZ market? You know, whereas I think we'll be in a couple of years' time in a very different place to where we are now and where we were 3 years ago. It's just things are moving so rapidly. But I think from detection is still really important, I think, because if people know that we can detect the material, there is that differentiation between diamond and then any other product, and then it's almost encouraging that disclosure of the material as well, which is, I think, the most important thing in this field, is that when the consumer goes to purchase whatever piece of jewelry, they know exactly what they are buying.
Right. And Dani, I think we touched on this before, but what are you getting what impression are you getting from the industry about what they want next? I mean, you mentioned kind of the packages that they want, but what are customers' visions? What's the vision of customers for this type of technology?
Yeah. So it's definitely a range where, you know, the retail customers are more and more looking for that small portable solution. And also, as you can imagine, there's always a price conversation, you know, especially at retail level. So it's how can we get the prices down, make it more affordable for them. The tension that we constantly working with is, you know, how much do you drop price to the sacrifice or detriment of performance, you know, or accuracy? And this is where, you know, we've been talking to a lot of customers around, you know, what is the job to be done for the customer? So meaning, what's a referral rate that's acceptable to them versus if, you know, the cost and the risk to them if it goes up again. We've got to stand behind our accuracy from a false positive point of view. So it's 100% accurate. And therefore, again, with that, there's potentially certain price increases that goes with it. And again, it's how can we work with our product teams at the moment, and we're going through quite a lot of innovation and technology development around how do we potentially get the cost down, but don't sacrifice on that principle from a De Beers point of view, you know, from protecting the natural diamond world. So that's where we've seen quite a lot of requests coming in from customers. And then we also see, you know, if you move up in the value chain, again, from a manufacturer's point of view, it's constantly working with us to say, could we potentially look at further customization on some of our products for them? You know, and customization in the size ranges that they use, along with also then different solution package. So, you know, between a product sale, a service, a warranty plan, you know, all of that at the moment, we're talking to customers at the moment from a needs point of view. So we've definitely seen the need is more and more moving towards customer centricity and ensuring a good service model around that particular product that we provide to the customer. But overall, we've also seen, again, that customers are looking for that long-term partnership, you know, that long-term relationship to say, look, we know we're going to be walking this path for a while, so let's make sure how over the long term, we make sure that we do put in the right solutions to ensure that our entire value chain is protected.
Right. I just also wanted to apologize to the audience. We've had a few connection issues today. I hope it hasn't disturbed people's enjoyment of this. But we do have a few questions. In fact, 2 people have asked the same question. Maybe unsurprisingly, what is the approximate price of the new AMS? I'm going to guess that one's price on demand. Can you give a better answer than that, Dani?
Yes, I can. The reason why, it's why we say the caveat of, the meeting is so important with the customers, because we've realized that, so the price is significantly higher than what most customers are used to from previous detection instruments. The reason for that is just because of the speed that this particular instrument runs. So the performance at the moment is that we can scan these small melee diamonds at 2,200 stones per hour, which is quite significant if you think of that, of that small size of stone. And the referral rate at the moment is below 3%, and again, 0% false positive. So those are very important from a business case point of view. And we've seen with most of the customers that we are talking to at the moment, depending on the size of the customer, so depending on how many volumes that they use, they looking at a payback period of between 2 to 3 years, and they are in the region of about 40 to 50% of savings if they had to send it to a lab for screening. So the price is high, and I'm always hesitant to share it over, just where where you can't work with the customer, because we're trying to move away from just the price or the cost conversation, and we're moving towards what's the business value for the customer. And we do acknowledge, though, that for certain retailers, there won't be value in purchasing the outright AMS Micro, because based on their volumes, and the price point, it just wouldn't be sustainable. But in that, then we would like to have the conversation to see how do we build a service screening solution around that particular customer, or if we can get a few customers in a certain region, again, how do you take that to market? If they're willing to set up a meeting with us, I would really appreciate that, because I would love to then go into detail of how we can look at the business case in the next 2 to 3 months. Once it's on our website, we'll list it as well at the price point. But at the moment, very eager to have the value-based conversation, if that's okay with everyone.
Understood. Thanks for that answer. And just a reminder to everyone, as I mentioned before, that people are free and welcome and encouraged to post questions in the comments. Sam, I wanted to ask you a bit about how you train people to use the machines. I know that's one of the things that you do. You go around the world training and educating people in how to use the De Beers Group Ignites instruments. You touched on a couple of things already, but can you expand a bit on that? What are the main things you tell people, without giving away all the secrets here? What are the main things you can tell us? What are the main things you tell people when you instruct them?
I think in terms of detection, there's no secrets. We want people to be able to get the right answer when they are screening their diamonds. So we've almost got sort of parallel strategies. One is that we have the sort of generic education programs that the De Beers Group run, and both Ignite and the Institute of Diamonds work together on those. So we run synthetic diamond detection courses. So it's a full day course where we go through general hints and tips on how to use the instruments, but a bit about the background of synthesis, how the material is grown, the history of it, and how you can distinguish, sometimes gemologically, but then what other, like using fluorescence techniques, how you would detect those. So there's that, but then there's also the specific training on the specific instruments. So we can either, again, it depends on the customer, because some of the customers are very au fait with these sorts of bits of kit, so they know how to use them, they understand all the different techniques, and we can just, that can just be hopping on a quick virtual call and just talking through the general use of the instrument. But then on the other hand, we can go through a full-on seminar, we can do face-to-face training, and it's really, some of the instruments are automated, so they give you a result straight away. But I still think it's important to understand what the machine's doing. And one of the real things is when people are looking at diamond verification instruments, is knowing what the instruments can do, but also what they can't do. So you may be looking, it's not necessarily one compared to another instrument, because they may be measuring something very different, and one instrument might be in a process where you'll get 100% accuracy, whereas if you take one of those out, then maybe that doesn't work. So really important for customers to do their research, do their own research, I think, ask as many questions as they can on the specific DVIs and yeah, just that due diligence. And again, sort of linking to the Assure testing program where you've got, you know, various metrics there on what's being measured and what's important in a diamond verification instrument.
Right. Thanks for that. We've got a few questions from the audience about the question of referral rates. Just working through some of these. Someone asked how many false negatives. I guess not clear if that's referring to the AMS micro or not. I presume it is. Did you get what was the did you give a number on how the referral rate and the number of false negatives on that?
So in terms of, if we're, again, it's quite confusing terminology if people aren't really familiar with the Assure testing.
Yeah.
And Sam can also go ahead, Sam.
So I think when we talk about false positives, we talk about the natural false positive rate, which in all of our screening instruments is always 0%. So no synthetic diamond will pass as a natural diamond. And that's the most important metric for us. Even if the speed is slightly lower or we get a higher referral rate in terms of numbers of natural diamonds that need to be tested further. And then depending on the instrument, whether it's a De Beers verification instrument or any other, again, it's important to know what that machine is testing for. So is it screening out just lab-grown diamonds? Is it screening out simulants as well? Is it looking for potentially treated diamonds? So for example, something like our Diamond Sure instrument, which will refer all type 2 and all type 1AB diamonds, because they've got the potential of being both lab-grown and high pressure, high temperature treated. Whereas with other instruments, they may just be doing natural versus synthetic. So important to know that, I think, when you start looking at referral rates.
Right. I think we can refer people to the Assure program for this. And someone also asked, again, I'm not sure I entirely understand this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Is there a fundamental solution to the referral issue? What is your position on this? Will further evolutions of the doping technology during the CVD production process be tracked? I think this is just asking, yeah, is there a way of making detection 100%? I think is what this person's getting at.
So we can, I mean, something like our Diamond View instrument is a detection instrument. So if you've got the time to sit there and look at each stone individually, you can look at the fluorescence color. Does that stone phosphoresce? And then what are the growth patterns there? So we can then, if you're looking at the stone on a Diamond View instrument, you can see the difference, the clear difference between an HPHT grown synthetic diamond and a CVD grown. On the doping side of things, I'm not sure if they're talking maybe about, I mean, in the CVD process, sometimes you've got silicon within the process, and that can be flagged if you're using photoluminescence or that type of thing.
Right.
But then not all CVD stones contain silicon, so you couldn't just use that alone. So.
I think this question also maybe needs to be referred to you after this. Another question we got here is someone asked how many instruments do you currently sell? I don't know if that's something you would answer. Danny?
I know there's a bit of a lag, so I'll come in now. So if I think this year, we've close to, I think off my head now, 60 to 70 instruments. And that obviously ranges from, various customer segments that we sell to. Yeah, can't think of I think that's more or less the number that we are on at the moment. And our forecast for the next couple of years, shows that there's a significant increase in that demand. So that's currently where we are at the moment.
And a good question here. How many of the new instruments, i.e. the AMS Micro, do you expect to sell?
We expect you for at least 2024 to sell 15, you know, perhaps even more if we look at the demand. And we forecasted at least growth for the next 3 years within AMS Micro, and then there's different ways to also change the solution, you know, from a product to a service point of view as well. So, but at least for next year, based on the customer conversations we've had, projecting about 15 for next year.
Right. Fine, thank you. Someone else asked, how far are we off from a simplistic handheld instrument? And yeah, that's the first part of their question.
It'd be great if we could just
that's...
offer one of those straight away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I must say, for me as well, just coming into the industry quite new over the last 4 or 5 years, I must have been frustrating the research team. Yeah, can't we just have a simple device? You know, it's something that you walk around and scan, and they'll give me the long list of why it's not possible yet. And then I do understand it, but I share that same vision that ultimately, you know, you want something very simple, that we challenge ourselves as a team on. But every now and then I have to apologize to the research team if I come across as just make it simple and cheap and small, you know, and like, no, it can't be done. It's like, okay, I'll wait.
Are the instruments getting smaller? Have they got smaller over the years?
I've seen it. I mean, if you see some of the not ours particular, especially if you think of the AMS Micro, that's getting bigger. But it's based on the volume, obviously. You know, but
We've lost you a bit there,
definitely
Danny.
seen overall in the industry that instruments are getting smaller. So, and I think it's from a retailing point of view, it's become a ask. If you just think of the okay. So we've definitely seen the demand for at a retail level to get a bit smaller. You know, just because of front and store. So yes, I think it's always the request. You know, if you look at retail, not so much particular, maybe upstream.
Right. That's an interesting fact I hadn't thought of. I'm pleased you mentioned that. So that's interesting insight. You touched on this, Sam, before, but well, they're asking whether lab-grown diamonds will keep rising in the market, which isn't really the remit of this conversation. But another observation here. Someone says, I highly recommend the synthetic task taught by Sam and De Beers. There we go. Got a bit of fan mail as well. Fine. Okay, I actually think that covers most of the questions that we got in. But I'm sure people, Sam and Danny, I'm sure people are able, if they want to send questions in writing after this. So I think for now, I'm just gonna say that concludes our questions. Thank you to everyone for listening to this podcast brought to you by Ignite, which is a full service innovation, science and technology division within the De Beers Group, spearheading step change throughout the diamond industry. I would like to personally thank Danny and Sam for joining us today, and I wish everyone well. Thanks for watching, and thanks, Sam and Danny.